Well, welcome back. I see a couple of comments. Folks are starting to load in here, so we'll just give them a second. But uh, happy Sunday, folks. I know it's a little bit weird. Chiefs ought to be not the way that it worked out, but hey, I appreciate you guys all joining in. It's been an interesting week, right? With everything coming along with the coaching changes, there's a lot more to be seen. We saw it with Mike Smith. We'll talk about that some here today, as well as everything else is going to go on position specific. I'm going to have all kinds of stuff laid out on the channel for position requirements, 4-3 versus 3-4, all the things that are going to factor into what happens. And you know, I know it feels like the season just ended, but next season starts like today. It started last week. We have a lot going on. And they're going to have to make a decision on D Ford here at the bare minimum 6 weeks. They could make it before that. I think they're going to kind of stretch it out, but that's just my thought. But want to hit now that folks are starting to join. Want to make sure we get a ton of folks in here. Tonight's beer, yes, my favorite, one of my favorites. Let's say that Fremont. I don't know if that's backwards to you guys or not, but Fremont Mod Pod IPA, great beer. A brewery that I really, really support because they do things old school. I mean, I like beer like I like football. Old school. Let's do the dirty work and get things done. So we are brought to you tonight. I want to make sure that everybody knows. We'll get a few more people here. Insurance Incorporated is our sponsor. They've been sponsoring us the whole offseason. Really great group over there, starting with Sean and all the way down. And they'll do everything for you. Life, auto, business, every kind of insurance that you could need, you can get there. They're pretty local. They're in Shawnee, so I know some of you Missourians are going to be like, it's still a Kansas company. It's a local company. So make sure and check them out. In fact, they're in the chat. Sean's here right now. So how are you? Obviously, Gary Holland, thanks for asking me how I am. I appreciate that. I am under the weather. I have a cold. My kids have the flu. It's just one of those things. I'm trying to stay halfway healthy. So a lot going on though, and I'm excited because you guys have heard me talk for the last, 3 years about Bob Sutton's penchant for being too passive and that he has to be more aggressive. And if he could be more aggressive with this roster that he has, he could be more successful. Well, that's what you're going to get from Steve Spagnuolo. Nulo, Nolo, I'm gonna massacre that for a while until I hear the man say his own name. I'm probably gonna massacre it for quite a bit. So, a lot of comments coming in. Hold your questions for now. We're gonna talk ProBowl. We're gonna talk some of those changes. If you have anything that you want to make sure that I see, hit that super chat. Make a little donation. It'll pop up there. It makes it a lot easier for me to see. So I appreciate anybody who feels like doing that. This is kind of the start of the offseason, and we're going to be up and down, and I'm going to be all kinds of draft here, pretty sure. So if you don't know anything about me, I run a company called Rogue Analytics, and I take all of the data from the combine and the pro days. And I have specific metrics that I've developed over the years because I'm an exercise physiologist by training. I used to be a strength and conditioning coach. So I understand applying the measurements to the field, and that's what I do. I'm trying to consult with some companies. With some teams. And I work with companies like Optimum Scouting, talking with Pro Football Focus. We're going to have a lot on the line about this draft season. So don't think that I'm going away in any shape or form. I'm going to have all kinds of stuff for you. So Kenny Slavens, thanks for your comment. I appreciate that. I will have more videos for you no matter what happens. And this coaching change is kind of a flurry right now, right? I was a little bit shocked. And if you didn't see the video from this morning, I was kind of delayed in putting it up, but it did actually go up. The speed with which they made the change for Spagnuolo is really what kind of got me. I knew they were going to get there, but not only did I not think that they had it all drawn out, and that's really what it boils down to. The speed of it means that they had it boiled down. They had a plan. Mike Smith actually was announced as the Green Bay Packers' new outside linebacker coach. They are staying with the 3-4. And in making that decision, a little tidbit came from Nate. out of The Athletic, Seth's partner in crime at The Athletic. And Nate's a beat reporter, and he does a great job, so check him out. But he had a little tidbit about this picture that Mike Smith had signed to D Ford about how great a year he had, and that they knew that they weren't going to be working together anymore. And that was like the day after when they were cleaning out their lockers. So that's a pretty good sign that they knew they were going to a 4-3. They knew they were hiring Spags. It was kind of a done deal. I like that they talked to Rex, or at least they reportedly did. I haven't had confirmation of that. But you guys know how I feel about Rex, so I thought that was great. But it tells you exactly where they were going. They have to feel like they're going to have to be able to make this transition, because this transition is going to be really, really fast. It has to be, because you only have a 2-year window at the maximum. After next season, you can start renegotiating for an extension with Patrick Mahomes, and that's really what's going to be the impetus. Right now, you have him so cheap, it allows you to have talent everywhere else. It's kind of that Legion of Boom with Russell Wilson on the rookie scale, and then bam, he had to get paid when they started to happen. You have to get very creative, or you have to get very, very young once that quarterback signs his second contract. So that's what the clock is ticking for. Seeing some questions come in. I'll start getting to those here in a minute. I know it's light for a Sunday night, but I appreciate all you guys being here. Over 100 people on a night when the Chiefs didn't even play, so thanks. A lot of old friends, a lot of you that have been with me from the whole channel start, which was, post-draft last season. So we haven't even been going a year. We're doing great. And it's all thanks to you guys. I really appreciate it, as well as our sponsors. Insurance Inc. Sean's in here, so y'all say hi to him. He's doing a great job. If you need insurance, he's got you covered no matter what it is. As we get to looking at the future, obviously there's going to be position changes. There's going to be some tweaks. Linebackers are different in a 4-3 than they are in a 3-4. And that's really where my concern is for the most part. I think the D-line is going to work itself out. You're going to see Breland Speaks be able to play more, and I think that's a good thing. There are a lot of questions. And before we get to the draft part stuff, Aaron Geckley, thanks for putting that up. Pat Mahomes won the MVP tonight in the Pro Bowl. And old Sherman nailed one touchdown in there. And I feel like we're on the verge of a renaissance. The fullback can come back. I've been screaming about this for, 3-4 years, that the demise of the fullback is not in its entirety. They're still useful, not necessarily just lead blocking. You can split them out. Guys like Sherman in particular, he ran the ball in on a dive tonight, thanks to Anthony Lynn, the Chargers coach, who's an old running back who understands and appreciates the fact that you can just dive a fullback in there and score real easily. It's the Pro Bowl and nobody's knocking anybody's heads off, but still. I'm just tickled to see it. And I think Anthony's a nice guy. I think he does a lot for the military and the veteran community. I think he's a great guy that we need to prop up a little bit more, not just because he plays fullback, a position that's near and dear to my heart, but he's a good dude. And I think he's going to be back, and I think he's got a solid cog of this team. But it looks like it. And I was recording. I still have headphones on. I'm sorry, I don't really need those because I'm reading your guys' comments. But we just finished recording the Locked On Chiefs podcast. That should be up here in a couple of minutes. So when you're done here, go check out the Locked On Chiefs podcast on iTunes or Google Play or whatever you want. But we were talking about that. And as we were recording, it looks like Sherman must have been involved somehow, because the Chiefs are saying themselves that they have to split a car. And I'm not sure how that's going to happen, but it should be very entertaining one way or the other. So I hope that that's cool. And I think it's great to see, because for such a young elite quarterback that's on the edge of everything new about the NFL, and to have the throwback guy be emphasized as well, the guy that is old school. I love seeing that. It's the yin and the yang, the new and the old together, and it's a great look for the NFL. Not just the Pro Bowl, but the NFL in general. So I'm pumped. I see you guys are talking about D a little bit. I'm trying to catch up with your comments. I know D wants to be back. I think D understands that he plays his best when Justin Houston's on the field across from him. And there are other pass rushers that are elite, but the Broncos aren't calling. You're not going to play across from Von Miller. And I know that they hung out with Chuck Smith, who's kind of a pass rush guru, and they work in the offseason with him. So D Ford knows Von Miller. He knows some of the other elite pass rushers, and I think he still wants to play with Justin Houston. I think that's what makes him best, and I think he does want to be back. I just don't know if he can play that Sam position, and I know he can't play the Leo, because the Leo has to set the edge on the weak side every play. And that's a big question mark. So we'll see what Spags has to say about it. I'm sure they're deep in looking at the film, so he can kind of help Veach set the tempo for who he wants to keep, who they have to be. It's a huge decision in Ford. You're talking millions and millions of dollars on D Ford. You're betting on it. This is like the worst scenario because not only did he outplay everything he's ever done in a contract year, but now you're talking about changing schemes. And there's no way to really predict that. So it's going to be coming down to a lot of the film analysis by the defensive coordinator and whoever takes over the outside linebackers, or however they organize it, who's going to be in charge of the outside rushers, to look at the film of what Ford did and try to see if they can migrate that to what they're going to do in the future. And I think Mike Smith's departure to Green Bay does definitely significantly signify that they're going to a 4-3, but there's a lot of flavors of a 4-3 too. So there are a number of ways that they can still be used. So with that said, thank you for your question. I appreciate the Sherman comment. And the next thing that I saw as I'm trying to scroll back, Leonardo, thank you for that. DeAndre Baker from Georgia. I think you guys all know that I've been a huge Georgia proponent in terms of it being a direct pipeline to the Chiefs because they play a West Coast offense. They do promote balance. They run the ball. I mean, you have guys that were in the backfield in Gurley, Chubb, Michelle, all guys that can run in the NFL. So they are definitely still a place to look. But they run a 3-4. Now that things are changing, the front seven at Georgia isn't exactly a plug-and-play kind of match like it used to be. Going forward, this is going to be a little bit different. But in the secondary play is the same. Manning up. I think Spags is going to tell you that he wants to be balanced. But Spags runs a lot of zone. He did in New York. He had Aaron Ross, who had the best year of his career, where he allowed him to play kind of that rover zone kind of thing, which allows him to be a hybrid. I think it is going to be a hybrid. You're going to see them play more zone, I think. Maybe more than even Bob called, but definitely more than what you saw in years past. And I think that helps certain players, including Fuller. I think that's going to be a plus for him. He played a lot of zone in Washington. It's kind of like taking a little bit step back. And I think as long as they are able to disguise it, and that's the big thing that I like about Spags, even though I wouldn't, if it were up to me, I wouldn't run a 4-3. I'd still run a 3-4 because I think the more linebackers you have on the field, the better. But that's me. But the thing that he's going to use is he's going to disguise things, and that's going to make the difference. So there are still players, and DeAndre Baker from Georgia is one of them. And it seems like, according to all the guys that I trust, in Dane Brugler, Tony Pauline, the guys that know the draft and know enough context around the league that can talk about how teams are feeling about people, they both seem to feel that DeAndre Baker from Georgia is a cornerback that's going to fall all the way to 29. Do I buy that? I don't know. The combine's still to come. The pro days are still to come. There's still a ton to go on. But if that were to happen, I am all for it. Byron Murphy's clearly my favorite corner in this draft. Another guy from Washington. Washington's another school that I don't care what you do because I like their safety wrap as well. He's going to be a second rounder, maybe a third rounder. He's going to be on day 2 for sure. But another guy that can help the Chiefs team. And I like the way Washington is coached. Coach Lake does a great job up at UW in Seattle. And he's somebody that should be pipelining his players into the NFL because they come in and they're prepared to play. I'm looking forward to that. So, I'm going to watch Washington and I'm going to watch Georgia, and I will have all that kind of stuff for you. DeAndre Baker's definitely a guy that if he should fall and they don't decide to go up and do something else, which I think they might with all that capital and trying to fit players into new roles, you might see them trade up. But this is way ahead of the game here. I think DeAndre Baker is somebody to look at. Next question. Sorry, I'm getting caught up. When are they going to announce Spags? That's a good question. Right now, they're doing kind of what they did when they brought Andy in. Like they kind of waited to make the actual official announcement until they had all the things kind of lined up. So clearly, Mike Smith has gone. His services were no longer needed because he's a 3-4 outside linebacker coach. He's not a DN coach. He's not an inside linebacker coach. I'm really interested to see what happens with Britt Reed. Because everyone's going to say, hey, he's the coach's son, so they're going to keep him. But that's not necessarily true because not only does he have connections across the league and players that have moved on across the league, but coach does too. So there are plenty of job opportunities for people that are in Reed's tree that would want to bring him in. So that's not necessarily a done deal. But Mark DeLeon as well, the inside linebacker coach, because the roles change so much from the 3-4 to the 4-3. You're basically looking at a single old school middle linebacker. And depending on whether Spags wants to run kind of some Tampa 2, where that middle linebacker has to get 15, a lot of depth to get. And I don't think any of the guys on this team are athletic enough to do it except Dorian O'Daniel. He's not big enough to be a middle linebacker. He's a will. That's what he's going to be. So that's a huge question. There's tons of things that could change. And until they get all that kind of straightened out, I don't expect an announcement from the Chiefs. I will check with PR from their executives. Great people. Normally when I ask questions, because they haven't released them, they're just like, we don't know yet. We'll tell you when we do. So I'll just tell you that. Pundudon, I appreciate that you're asking about forward. I don't know. I think right now it's film room time. I think Spags and whoever he's bringing in with him, particularly about the pass rusher, probably digging in first and foremost to D4's film. I think secondarily they'd be looking at Houston as well, because that's a huge thing. And I, personally, if it's me, I'd be asking Justin Houston to take a restructure somehow to get some cap relief so we can get a couple of things done. I am sold on going to get Earl Thomas. The Chiefs are trying to get him out of the situation that he didn't want to be in, and I think that garners some loyalty, and I think he's the type of player you need. You need a ball hawk in the back that can play single high and cover the entire field. Now, he broke his leg. Yeah, that's recoverable. It's not a soft tissue thing. It's not a structural thing. You rebuild your bone and you're going to be okay. So I'm not worried about his injury. So a lot of things go into being able to afford him, and I hope that's something that happens. So I just don't know if it's going to or not. So the best QB in the league. I like what you guys are saying. I'm trying not to get in your side conversations. Don't let me butt in. Sorry. Chiefs fan 15. Oh, my scroll is not working very well tonight, you guys. But I am glad to be back in the home studio. So it's better than what I was doing, last week in New Orleans. Okay, I see Poon brought it up too, so I will address it. D'Anthony got busted. Listen, half the league smokes weed. It's medicinal, literally, for them as athletes. He got in trouble. It's against the law. That's the thing. You don't live in Colorado where I do, where I don't think it would have been a big deal. But he's struggled physically to stay healthy his entire career in the NFL. He's a little dude. This may be the last straw that makes him not be on the roster. Demarcus Robinson moves into the third slot. There are two receivers, particularly at the Senior Bowl, that I really liked in what's his name? I'll have to come back to that. Isabella is one of them. And Michael Duvis, I appreciate that you asking about the Senior Bowl. A couple of the little like inside slot type, horizontal type wide receivers, because you have Tyreek to go deep. You have Sammy most of the time to do the deep and the crossers, right? If he goes down, you have DeMarcus who can step in. You don't have that little wiggly Cole Beasley, Julian Edelman type that can take some pressure off of doing the crossing routes from Travis Kelce. Because I think Travis Kelce's too unique as an athlete. You got to keep getting him deep. You got to get him in the intermediate, that 10 to 20 yard range. But the little things, when you need a first down, use somebody like that, like an Isabella. I like the way he runs routes. I'm not sure about his hands. He's got me a little concerned, but I'll dig into that. But use somebody like Edelman. Get that type of player that I thought Dat could be, but Dat just can't stay healthy. So it's going to be interesting to see. I don't know if Dat's going to be back now. Kenny Slavens played good for 1 year. You're Shane. Okay. I haven't seen what Shane had to say on him, but and folks, I just want to say now, support the folks that support me. Insurance Incorporated, that's one of them. They're in here. Sean's in here tonight. But all the other YouTubers that are Chiefs guys, Brit Chief, support Brad. Check him out. Shane and Corey, the artist. Everybody's trying to do the thing, trying to make this a platform where Chiefs fans can congregate and have good conversations, and everybody's trying to do their piece. So support everybody that you can. I think it's really worth it. Are we going to be in the free agent market again? I don't think Brett Veach is going to take a year off from it. I'll tell you that. Will it be huge home runs like Earl Thomas, like I'd like? I don't know. If they decide that D Ford isn't going to fit in their plans, it opens a lot of things up. And Anthony Barr is definitely somebody that should be looked at. I said it earlier last week on the podcast. You've seen a lot of guys start chiming in about him. So don't tell me I was late, because I told you all first. Anthony Barr is a guy that can play that, Sam, that can make this defense purr. He's a great athlete. And the thing about him is everybody forgets that in college, he was a heck of a pass rusher. And that's a nice thing to have, because Spags will go to a NASCAR kind of thing with one down lineman and a couple of ends up and in everybody's face. And he's good at disguising who he's going to blitz. But Barr's definitely somebody that can get home and rush the passer as well. Let's see. Hit your questions. How much money do we have in free agents? $5 million in free agency cap room. Another safety and corner. Yes, definitely in the draft. Corner first, because I still think that a shutdown corner is what this defense needs. They have some invested in Armani Watts and Jordan Lucas, so you have some things there. I wouldn't put it past them to draft another safety in particular, but just don't know. So I'd go corner first, but we're going to talk about that all offseason. Anybody got any questions? Can we please replace Harris? Jeremy Jones, thank you for saying it out loud for me. They kept Yelder on here for a reason. I thought he was the guy that's going to be dropped for LDT, and it didn't happen. So I think that they have a plan for him. And I definitely think that there are a number of athletic tight ends that are out there in both free agency and this draft that you don't have to spend a bundle on. So I'm looking for them to do that. Samir, thank you. I appreciate that. Appreciate the donation. First super chat tonight. I appreciate it. Lots going on. So that draft is going to come down to filling in the tight end position as well. I really do believe that they'll do that. With Yusura, I appreciate that's a very good question, because I'm a guy that I like Dieter. You can see that he was down at the Pro Bowl just hanging out with Mahomes all week. That's how tight those two are. And I think that's cool. But can he play in the slot? I think that he can. He's definitely got the speed, and looking at him, he's kind of a goofy, lanky white kid. I don't know that you would think that he has that speed, but he's gotten loose, and I look for bigger things from him. Honestly, I might try to trust his hands better than DeMarcus right now. So there's definitely going to be some competition behind Tyreek and Sammy. I just don't know that he has exactly that kind of super pivoty lateral quickness that he can be that Edelman type. But that's definitely something he can work on. He spent a lot of the offseason training with Tyreek last season, so I wouldn't put it past him at all. Let's see what he comes back with. Landon Collins, he does have ties to Spags. Zach Johnson, you are absolutely right. Now, I don't believe he's a free agent for another 2 seasons. I could be wrong. I'll look that up, but definitely not this next one. But if the Giants were dumb enough to let him go, there was rumor that they wanted to trade him. I could see him landing here. But again, that's moving on from Eric Berry. That's what he needs to do. He's still not that center fielder type ball hawk. So it still leaves some things that can do. Neon White thinks Ford can't play Sam. You may be right, especially in getting depth. Why, Melvin, I appreciate all your comments. I just want to say, I seem whatever my schedule is, and folks, I used to answer everybody's comments, but it's just grown to the point now. In order to produce everything and do all the research, I'm just not on the comment section that much, and I apologize. But somebody that I almost always see is Melvin, and Melvin, where I appreciate that. Why is Andy getting a pass for scoring 0 points in the first half of the AFC Championship game? He's getting a pass because I think it was more execution than it was design. At the end of the day, you can't really push him too far because of what he's been able to get Mahomes to do. Now, a lot of that is Mahomes all by himself. I think we saw that tonight, being able to step into a whole different team's terminology. Yes, it's just the Pro Bowl. It's more of a fun game than a true competitive game, but that's significant. So that's a piece of it. But you're absolutely right. The line played poorly. I like Wiley. I like Wiley a lot. But if LDT were experienced, in shape, and ready to go, they definitely should have done that. I don't think that he was. Healthy enough to play, probably, but not in sync. I think that's what it comes down to. So, Melvin, keep shouting out those questions, and I appreciate your comments all the time. It should have been a blowout, but it wasn't. You're absolutely right. Another super chat. Thank you, Chris. I appreciate that. Coach DJ, a homer pipe dream. DJ said he wants to coach eventually, but I think DJ's sold that he can still play. I don't personally agree with that. I think DJ's time has come, but only DJ gets to make that choice. Andy Reid already offered him a job, so he's got it there when he's ready. I think it will be there. Now, there's a couple of things. He struggled in the 4-3 early in his NFL career. He did come around when they moved to the 3-4. The benching by old Todd, it did help DJ, and I think that was significant, but I think he can be a good coach going forward. It seems like he wants to. I just don't know if he's ready to let go of being a player. Otis, I like that comment. Kelvin Benjamin moving to TE. I like it, especially if we get back to what we saw a couple of years ago when he moves that triangle, that 3 tight end triangle outside. I think that's great with Kelvin Benjamin. I just don't know if they trust him. They seem to go away with him, and he was inactive as a healthy scratch, and I think that's a terrible sign. So I don't know that he'll be back, but we'll see what happens. Armani Watts can be very good. Can he be that ball hawk in the back that is your last line of defense? He's got problems tackling, and he's got problems taking pursuit angles. He makes good plays, though. I think he's a guy, especially that can come down and play that rover spot without having to be the big dude up in the box. So there's definitely a spot for Armani Watts on this team, even when they go to the 4-3. Hill Michael 81, you're absolutely right. They do need to draft linebackers. And it's nothing against Ragland. I think Ragland's the odd man out right here, but I do expect him to compete in camp. I don't think they're going to cut him because they brought him here to be a leader, and I think they're going to give him a chance to make that transition. I don't know what happened in Mexico City, but something went really wrong with Reggie just before the season. I think he was playing catch-up the whole year. He came on and made some big plays in the last couple of games, and I think that's going to go a long way towards them giving him a chance to show what he has. Let's see. What else you guys got? Landon, yeah, I talked about that. Middle linebackers in the draft. There are some. I haven't gotten into the film yet, but I'm seeing grades. And again, there are certain people that I trust. When it comes to linebackers, Eric Galko and Dane Brugler in particular, I would trust their opinions. Dane's over at The Athletic now, and Eric's at Optimum Scouting. You'll see all my draft grades, all my athleticism grades coming up in the Optimum Scouting draft guide again. And I will have the Rogue Analytics draft guide out this season as well. Any more questions? Hit me with the double quotes, double question marks at the beginning so I can see them. And we'll just wrap it up here, guys. I know it's kind of a weird Sunday, but we're going to do this. I'm going to do this all off season. I'll do a Q&A every week, basically. It makes it easier for me to get to the topics that you want to get. I'm going to do a lot of research, and I'm going to go through all the progressions of the possessions of who fits where in this new coming scheme in particular, as well as the offense. But I want to make sure that we keep having this interaction. So I'll be here. It may be a little sporadic. It may not always be Sunday nights. I do a lot of camping and stuff in the summer. So we'll just play it by ear in terms of the schedule. But leave me notes and whatever in some of the comments on the regular videos about when's a good time. Do you think Mitch Morse will be back next year? That's the biggest question on the offensive side. He's a free agent. He's got concussion history. That's tough. They have Reader here to replace him in case he doesn't. I think it's going to come down to health and what they really think his prognosis is going to be. So just hold tight. We should know in another couple of weeks, I think. And I'll let you know as soon as I do. Kenny Slavens, no, Lev Bell is out of the picture. Lev Bell cannot come here. Lev Bell is a cancer. He will not fit in this locker room. They like Damian Williams. I like Damian Williams. I love Darrell Williams. I think you all know that, so I won't go into it. But no, Lev Bell isn't coming here. I expect him to be in Florida myself, but we'll see what happens. Should we take a look at the ball when we win the toy? Guys, don't think we could have held off Brady. Keith, maybe. I don't know. Argo, we need a big back. We got Darrell Williams. 6'2", like 230, I think. He's plenty big. They got to use him that way, but they won't. I would like to see them come in and do some eye stuff. Like you saw Sherman score on tonight. I think that's completely viable. And I think with all the nickel defense, the dime defenses we're seeing all across the league, I think you see they're gonna come back to some run heavy formations again. So, Shrimp Goat, how are you? Thanks for the super chat. I appreciate it. I still got an AFC championship hangover too. And I literally wasn't drinking that night, but I did afterwards. Bert, how are you? I appreciate you taking the time to say that. Thank you. Have we talked about Thomas yet? Briefly, the show will post here as soon as we're done. It'll process for a little bit. It'll go back up. I think DeAnthony kind of hurt himself about coming back between the injuries and the arrest. I think that's might be the end of him in Kansas City. I don't know for sure, but we'll find out. What do you think about Landon Collins? Demetrius, I hit that earlier in the show too, so check that out on the replay. Do you think we all go defensive draft again? No, I think they're going to sprinkle in a lineman or two, and possibly another type of receiver. But I think it will be predominantly defense. There will be a couple offensive players sprinkled in there, I think, though. Hi, William. Welcome to the show. Do you think D Ford will be a good design in the 4-3? I talked about that earlier, Cameron. I went into a lot of depth of it, so just check it out on the repost. I think that's the biggest question mark. I'm not sure that he has a spot. How do I feel about Pringle? I like Pringle. I just don't know if he's ready to take that step forward. And again, I feel like he's an outside receiver. I don't think he can go into the slot and do a whole lot. I want that really shifty, quick-hitting pivot kind of guy like Edelman, like Beasley. You've seen them give everybody fits. That's what the Chiefs need. It's the one piece they don't have right now that I think might even let Mahomes get to a bigger level. Other questions? Jeremy, hey, thanks for saying thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate you guys hanging out here. And I thank you guys for letting me keep doing this because, if it wasn't for you guys and watching, I wouldn't be able to. Yep, need some corners. Any interesting free agents, any position? There's a number out there. I'm going to do a couple of videos and definitely going to be on the podcast all about it. So, do we need extra picks this year? They have an extra second round. That's going to help. Yeah, low lip. I like Devo. Why wouldn't you? Is he going to be there? Or are they going to be willing to trade up to get him? I don't think so, but I could be wrong. Andy's Andy. He loves his offense. So we'll see what happens. We have like 3 different 6'3" to 6'5" type receivers, Michael. Don't forget there's Kemp. There's still other guys that they could bring back. Dieter's 6'2" all on his own. So, yeah, we'll see what happens there. Okay. Jerry Cole, last question. They're saying Conley is going to get a big payday if the Chiefs stick with him. I don't see how they're going to do that. Conley's a really smart receiver, and he's been a leader in that room because as good as Tyreek is, he's not the kind to lead other people, or he hasn't been to this point. I love Chris Conley, and I think you guys all know that. But I have to admit, Chris is a good player. He hasn't lived up to his potential. So that's going to be what it is. I hope they do not release Justin Houston. Justin Houston is not Derek Thomas, but he's the next best thing. Justin Houston is better than Tamba was in terms of history of this team and their pass rush. It's Derek Thomas, and then it's Justin Houston. And I don't want to see him go. I don't want to see what happened with Justin, with Jamal happen with Justin. So that's where I'm at. So with that said, it's been 35 minutes. You guys have been great hanging in. Check out insuranceinckc.com and all those guys to take care of you. Appreciate all of your questions. Demetrius is a free agent. He has no cap space right now. They'd have to re-sign him. I will go into Houston. I think Houston can play either of the rush ends. He might be able to play the 5 technique in the 4-3. It's just, yes, you sir. I actually do above Jared Allen. Jared Allen got better after he left the Chiefs, I think. So yeah, I would put Houston above him. Kenny, thank you. Joe, thank you. Sura, thank you. Melvin, of course, thank you. I'll be back next week. We'll try to do a Sunday thing, at least here in the spring, until it gets really nice out. And I'll have more videos for you on positions and free agency, the whole 9 yards. So you all have a good night, and I'll talk to you next time.